Hi guys, today we are going to discuss a very special and quietly fascinating topic, something that reaches far beyond recorded history and deep into the living memory of the Earth itself. Today we are going to explore the secret life of forests before humanity, a world that existed long before the first human footsteps pressed into soil, long before firelight flickered in caves, and long before any voice ever spoke a word. We are going to drift back into a time when forests ruled the land, when trees whispered to one another through roots and fungi, and when the planet breathed slowly through vast green lungs that stretched from horizon to horizon. So let us imagine just for a moment that we are gently stepping backward through time. With each breath, the modern world fades. The sound of engines, the glow of screens, the restless motion of cities all begin to dissolve, and in their place something older begins to emerge. We hear the soft rustle of leaves, the distant cry of birds, the subtle creak of branches swaying in a warm, ancient wind. We are no longer surrounded by concrete and glass. We are standing at the edge of a primordial forest, a forest so vast and alive that it seems to hold the entire world within its green embrace. Long before humans ever walked the earth, forests were already ancient. They had already lived through ice ages, shifting continents, rising seas, and falling skies. They had already learned how to survive droughts and floods, heat and cold, fire and storm. These forests were not empty places. They were rich, complex worlds filled with countless forms of life, all connected in ways that were invisible but deeply real. Beneath every towering tree, beneath every carpet of moss and fallen leaf, there was a hidden network, a living web that bound everything together. In those early ages, the land did not look the way it does now. Much of the earth was covered in thick, lush vegetation. Giant ferns rose like green fountains from the forest floor. Towering trees, some far taller than anything we see today, reached toward the sky, their canopies forming a roof of leaves that filtered sunlight into soft, golden beams. The air was heavy with moisture and rich with oxygen, carrying the scent of soil, bark, and growing life. Everywhere you looked, something was sprouting, stretching, blooming, or slowly unfolding toward the light. Forests were not just collections of trees. They were living communities, bustling with activity. Roots intertwined beneath the ground, weaving themselves together like threads in a vast underground tapestry. Fungi spread through the soil, forming delicate filaments that linked one plant to another, allowing them to share nutrients, water, and even chemical messages. In this way, forests became something more than simple ecosystems. They became vast, cooperative networks where trees could warn one another of danger, support weaker neighbors, and maintain a balance that allowed the whole forest to thrive. If we could have walked through one of these ancient forests, we would have noticed how alive it felt, even in stillness. There was a quiet energy in the air, a sense that every leaf, every trunk, every tiny organism was playing a role in a much larger story. Insects hummed gently as they moved from plant to plant. Birds glided through the canopy, nesting in high branches. Small mammals scurried along fallen logs and burrowed beneath roots. Even the soil itself was alive, filled with countless tiny creatures breaking down dead matter and returning its nutrients back to the living world. But perhaps the most remarkable thing about these prehistoric forests was not what could be seen, but what could not. Beneath the forest floor, hidden from sight, was a vast communication system that modern scientists now call the Wood Wide Web. Through this underground network of fungi and roots, trees were able to send and receive chemical signals. If one tree was attacked by insects, it could release warning signals that traveled through the soil, alerting other trees to prepare their defenses. If one tree was struggling due to lack of nutrients, nearby trees could share what they had, keeping the weaker one alive. This meant that forests were not competitive battlegrounds as we once believed. They were cooperative societies. The trees were not simply fighting each other for sunlight and space. They were quietly working together, balancing growth and survival in ways that allowed the entire forest to remain healthy. Older, larger trees often acted as hubs in this network, supporting younger saplings by sharing nutrients and stabilizing the soil. These ancient trees were like wise elders, silently guiding the forest through centuries of change. Time in these forests moved differently than it does for us. A single tree might live for hundreds, even thousands of years. Over its lifetime, it would witness the rise and fall of countless generations of animals. It would feel the slow shifting of the climate, the gentle advance and retreat of glaciers, the changing patterns of rain and sunlight. Yet it would remain rooted in place, patiently growing ring by ring, storing the history of the world within its trunk. As the seasons passed, these forests followed rhythms that were older than any calendar. In warmer times, leaves unfurled and flowers bloomed, filling the air with color and fragrance. In cooler seasons, leaves fell softly to the ground, forming a protective blanket over the soil. This layer of fallen leaves slowly decomposed, feeding the plants and microorganisms below. Nothing was wasted. Death and decay were simply part of the cycle of renewal that kept the forest alive. Long before humans began cutting down trees and clearing land, forests covered vast areas of the planet. They shaped the climate by absorbing carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen. They regulated rainfall by drawing water up from the ground and releasing it into the air through their leaves. They cooled the earth with their shade and warmed it by trapping heat beneath their canopies. In many ways, these ancient forests were the planet's first and most powerful caretakers. The animals that lived within these forests were shaped by them. Their fur, feathers, and scales often matched the colors and textures of leaves and bark, allowing them to blend into their surroundings. Their behaviors were tuned to the rhythms of the forest. Some were active during the day, moving through shafts of sunlight. Others came out at night, navigating by moonlight and scent. Every creature had a place, and every place had its creatures. Even the smallest organisms played crucial roles. Tiny fungi broke down fallen wood, bacteria enriched the soil. Insects pollinated plants and spread seeds. Worms aerated the ground, making it easier for roots to grow. Together, these countless small lives formed the foundation upon which the entire forest depended. Without them, the great trees themselves would not have survived. In this ancient world, there was no human noise. No engines, no voices, no metal striking stone. The loudest sounds were wind through leaves, rain falling on branches, thunder rolling in the distance, and the calls of animals echoing through the trees. It was a world filled with natural music, a gentle, ever-changing symphony that had been playing for millions of years. As we continue to drift through this timeless forest, it becomes clear that these ecosystems were not just collections of life. They were living, breathing entities in their own right. They grew, adapted, and healed themselves. When a storm knocked down a tree, sunlight would reach the forest floor, allowing new plants to grow. When a fire swept through, it cleared away dead material and made room for fresh life. Even destruction was part of the forest's long-term survival. Over vast stretches of time, forests slowly spread across continents. Seeds were carried by wind, water, and animals, colonizing new lands. As they grew, they transformed barren ground into rich, fertile soil. Rivers changed their paths as roots stabilized the earth. Mountains and valleys were softened by layers of vegetation. In this way, forests did not just live on the earth, they helped shape it, and all of this was happening long before the first humans ever appeared. For millions of years, the forests existed on their own, evolving, communicating, and thriving in quiet harmony. They had their own stories, their own histories, written not in books but in rings of wood and layers of soil. They were ancient, patient witnesses to a world that was constantly changing. As we move deeper into this story, we will begin to explore how these forests grew more complex over time, how different types of trees and plants emerged, and how their hidden networks became even more intricate. We will also start to see how the slow approach of early humans would eventually bring new changes to this timeless green world. But for now, we remain in this age of pure forest, when the earth was still mostly quiet and the trees were still the dominant life form on land. We find ourselves still walking beneath the vast green canopy of this ancient world, a place where sunlight filters through layers of leaves and falls softly upon the forest floor. The air here is warm and full of life, and every breath carries the subtle fragrance of earth and growing things. The trees stand like quiet guardians, their trunks thick and weathered, their branches stretching outward as if embracing the sky itself. They have been here for ages beyond counting, and they remember a time when the world was young and untouched. These forests were not uniform. They were made up of many different kinds of trees, each adapted to its own corner of the earth. In warmer regions, towering hardwoods grew tall and wide, their broad leaves capturing sunlight in abundance. In cooler lands, slender conifers reached skyward with needle-like leaves, designed to withstand snow and cold winds. Along riverbanks and wetlands, willows and ancient water-loving plants thrived, their roots drinking deeply from the flowing waters. Together, these forests formed a patchwork of green across the planet, each one unique, yet all connected by the same slow, patient rhythm of life. Deep beneath our feet, the soil tells a story just as rich as the towering trees above. Layers of decaying leaves, fallen branches, and ancient plant matter have been slowly transformed into dark, fertile earth. This soil is alive with countless microorganisms, quietly working to break down old material and release nutrients back into the living system. It is here in this hidden world that the true foundation of the forest lies. Without this soft, living ground, even the mightiest trees would wither and fall. The fungi that weave through this soil are among the forest's most important inhabitants. Though they remain mostly unseen, their delicate threads stretch for miles, connecting root to root, tree to tree, plant to plant. Through this network, water and nutrients are shared, allowing life to flow where it is needed most. A tree growing in a sunny clearing might send extra sugars to a shaded sapling struggling beneath the canopy. In return, that sapling may one day grow strong enough to stabilize the soil or protect the forest from erosion. This quiet exchange creates a balance that has sustained forests for millions of years. Above ground, the forest is filled with subtle motion. Leaves flutter gently in the breeze. Vines climb slowly toward the light. Moss creeps across rocks and fallen logs, softening their edges and turning decay into new growth. Even what appears still is always changing, always moving at a pace too slow for hurried eyes to notice. The forest does not rush. It has all the time in the world. Animals, too, have adapted to this slow, steady environment. Many creatures rely on the trees for shelter, food, and protection. Birds build nests high among the branches, safe from predators below. Insects live out entire lifetimes on a single tree, feeding on its leaves or burrowing into its bark. Small mammals find refuge in hollow trunks and tangled roots, while larger animals move carefully through the undergrowth, following ancient paths worn into the land by generations before them. In these prehistoric forests, there is no clear line between the living and the non-living. A fallen tree does not simply die and disappear. It becomes a home for beetles, fungi, and moss. Over time, it breaks down into soil, nourishing new plants that will grow in its place. In this way, every end is also a beginning. The forest is always renewing itself, turning loss into life with quiet efficiency. The climate of this ancient world is shaped by the forests themselves. Trees draw water up from the ground and release it into the air through their leaves, creating clouds and influencing rainfall. Vast stretches of woodland help keep temperatures stable, preventing extreme heat or cold. Many ways, these forests are the planet's earliest climate managers, maintaining conditions that allow life to flourish. As millions of years pass, the forests slowly change. Some species of trees disappear while others evolve and take their place. New plants emerge, better suited to shifting temperatures and rainfall patterns. Animals adapt alongside them, their bodies and behaviors shaped by the forests they call home. Yet despite all this change, the forests themselves endure. They bend, but they do not break. They adapt, but they remain. There are times when great disturbances sweep through these green worlds. Volcanoes erupt, covering the land in ash. Massive storms tear through, toppling even the strongest trees. Fires, sparked by lightning, race across dry landscapes. Yet even in these moments of destruction, the forests hold within them the seeds of renewal. Many plants have evolved to depend on fire, their seeds only opening when exposed to intense heat. After a blaze, new life springs from the blackened ground and the forest begins again. In the quiet aftermath of such events, the land becomes a canvas for rebirth. Tiny green shoots push through the soil. Insects return, followed by birds and mammals. Slowly, patiently, the forest rebuilds itself, often richer and more diverse than before. This ability to recover is one of the forest's greatest strengths, a testament to the deep wisdom woven into its living systems. As we walk deeper into this ancient woodland, we start to sense just how interconnected everything truly is. The trees depend on the soil depends on the fungi depend on decaying plants, animals depend on trees for shelter and food, and in turn they help spread seeds and shape the landscape. Nothing exists in isolation. Every life is part of a greater whole. Time flows differently here. Days pass with the slow arc of the sun. Seasons turn with gentle shifts in temperature and light. Years stack upon years, marked by the growth rings hidden within each tree trunk. These rings record droughts and floods, cold winters and warm summers, telling the story of the forest in a language written by nature itself. As we remain in this timeless place, we begin to approach a subtle turning point in Earth's history. Far away, beyond the edges of these forests, something new is beginning to stir. A new kind of creature is slowly evolving, one that will eventually walk upright and look upon these trees with curious eyes. But for now, the forests are still alone in their quiet dominion, breathing, growing, and whispering to one another beneath the ancient sky. The ancient forests remain deep and unbroken, stretching endlessly across the land like a green ocean. The air is thick with the scent of pine, damp earth, and blooming life, and every gentle breeze carries with it the soft whisper of leaves brushing against one another. These forests are not just scenery. They are living beings, breathing in sunlight and exhaling life, shaping the world in quiet, patient ways that no one is there to witness. Far above the forest floor, the canopy forms a vast ceiling of overlapping branches and leaves. Sunlight filters through in slow, drifting patterns, painting the ground below in patches of warm gold and cool green. In some places, the light is strong, encouraging young saplings to reach upward with eager leaves. In other places, the shade is deep and cool, allowing moss and ferns to thrive in gentle darkness. This constant balance between light and shadow creates countless micro-worlds, each with its own delicate rhythm. The trees here are ancient beyond anything we can truly imagine. Some have stood for centuries, even millennia, growing taller and stronger with every passing year. Their bark is thick and textured, carved by time and weather. Their roots plunge deep into the earth, anchoring them against storms and droughts alike. Through these roots, they remain connected to one another, sharing resources and information in a quiet, continuous exchange. Even though each tree stands alone, none of them are truly isolated. Below the surface, the fungal network continues to pulse with invisible life. It spreads like a vast web, linking together different species of trees and plants. Through this network, forests maintain a kind of memory. When drought strikes, nutrients are redirected to where they are needed most. When pests arrive, warning signals ripple through the soil, preparing other trees to defend themselves. This underground communication system has been operating for millions of years, long before any creature ever tried to study or understand it. The forest floor is a world of its own. Layers of fallen leaves form a soft, rustling carpet, cushioning every step. Beneath them, rich soil teems with life. Tiny insects crawl through narrow tunnels. Worms twist and turn as they aerate the earth. Fungi send out pale threads in search of nutrients. Even in this quiet, shaded place, there is constant movement, constant transformation. Nothing stays the same for long, yet everything remains part of the same endless cycle. Water moves gently through the forest, too. Rain falls in soft, steady patterns, soaking into the soil and feeding the roots below. Streams wind through the trees, their clear waters reflecting patches of sky and leaves. These waterways carry nutrients from one part of the forest to another, nourishing plants and animals alike. In wetlands and low-lying areas, ancient trees grow with their roots partially submerged, creating peaceful groves where frogs, insects, and birds gather in quiet harmony. Above all of this, the sky slowly changes with the passing of time. Clouds drift lazily overhead. The sun rises and sets, casting long shadows and gentle light. Stars emerge at night, shining through gaps in the canopy and reflecting in pools of still water. The forest experiences all of this without comment, simply existing within the flow of the universe. Animals move through these forests as part of the same living web. Some travel in herds, grazing on leaves and plants. Others hunt quietly, moving through the undergrowth with soft, careful steps. Birds glide from branch to branch, their calls echoing softly through the trees. Insects hum and buzz, pollinating flowers and carrying life from one plant to another. Each creature, no matter how small, plays a role in keeping the forest alive. In this pre-human world, there is no concept of ownership or boundary. The land belongs to itself. Trees grow where seeds fall. Animals move where food and shelter can be found. Rivers carve their own paths through the soil. The forest is shaped not by design, but by countless small choices made by nature over unimaginable spans of time. As climates slowly shift, forests respond. In warmer periods, tropical plants spread into new regions, filling the land with lush greenery. In cooler ages, hardy trees take their place, their needles and thick bark protecting them from cold and snow. Some forests retreat while others advance, following the changing patterns of the planet. Yet even as they move and transform, their essential nature remains the same. They are places of connection, cooperation, and quiet endurance. Over millions of years, forests also influence the very air itself. Through photosynthesis, trees absorb carbon dioxide and release oxygen, gradually transforming the atmosphere. Long ago, the rise of vast forests helped create the breathable air that many animals, including humans, would one day depend upon. In this way, forests were not just responding to the planet, they were actively shaping it, preparing the earth for future life. There is a deep stillness in these ancient woods, but it is not an empty stillness. It is filled with slow, steady activity. Growth happens silently, decay happens gently. Energy flows from sunlight to leaf, from leaf to soil, from soil back to new life. Everything is connected in a circle that has no true beginning and no true end. Sometimes storms roll through these forests. Rain falls harder and winds shake the branches. Trees bend and sway, their leaves fluttering wildly. Occasionally, lightning strikes, igniting small fires that move through the undergrowth. Yet even these moments of intensity are part of the forest's long story. Fires clear away old growth and make room for new plants. Storms bring fresh water and nutrients. What seems destructive in the moment often becomes a source of renewal in the long run. After a fire passes, the land looks dark and quiet, but beneath the ash, seeds begin to awaken. Within weeks, tiny green shoots push through the soil, reaching for the light. Insects return, birds follow. Slowly, the forest begins to rebuild itself, often more vibrant than before. This resilience is one of the forest's greatest gifts, allowing it to survive through ages of change. As time continues its slow march, new species of plants and animals emerge. Some thrive while others fade away. Yet the forest itself remains a constant presence, adapting and evolving alongside the life it supports. In many places, forests become so dense that they form nearly impenetrable walls of green. In others, they open into gentle woodlands filled with sunlight and soft grass. Every forest has its own character, shaped by climate, soil, and the countless lives within it. In this long, quiet age, the earth is ruled by green. Forests dominate the land, and their influence reaches into every corner of the planet. They shape weather patterns, support vast webs of life, and create the conditions that allow ecosystems to flourish. They are ancient, wise, and endlessly patient. And yet, beyond the horizon of this peaceful world, change is slowly approaching. Somewhere far away, in a small corner of the earth, a new kind of creature is learning to walk upright, to use tools, and to look upon the natural world with curiosity and wonder. These early humans are still few and fragile, barely noticeable in the vastness of the forests, but their arrival will eventually bring a new chapter to this ancient story. Continues to unfold, carried forward by the slow breathing of the earth itself, as the forests remain the great living skin of the planet, stretching across continents in endless waves of green. Generation after generation of trees rise and fall, yet the forest as a whole remains like a single vast organism, always renewing itself. Seeds drift on the wind, float on rivers, or are carried unknowingly by animals, finding new places to grow. Wherever they land, roots begin their quiet work, anchoring life once more into the soil. Over time, these forests become more than just clusters of trees. They form layered worlds. High above, the canopy catches most of the sunlight, creating a warm, glowing roof. Beneath it, a middle layer of shrubs, young trees, and climbing plants weaves through the filtered light. And below that, on the forest floor, mosses, ferns, and delicate flowers thrive in cool, shaded stillness. Each layer supports different kinds of life, and together they create a rich, three-dimensional habitat where thousands of species coexist. In the warmest regions of the ancient earth, vast tropical forests flourish. The air there is heavy with moisture, and rain falls often, feeding enormous trees that grow rapidly toward the sky. Their broad leaves drip with water, and vines twist around their trunks like living ropes. These forests are among the most diverse places on the planet, home to countless plants and animals that depend on one another in intricate ways. Fruits and flowers appear year-round, providing food for birds, insects, and mammals that move endlessly through the greenery. In cooler regions, temperate forests spread across rolling hills and wide valleys. Here, trees grow tall but more slowly, shedding their leaves in the colder seasons to conserve energy. The changing of the seasons brings a gentle rhythm to these lands. In spring, fresh green leaves emerge. In summer, the canopy becomes thick and full. In autumn, leaves turn warm shades of gold and red before drifting down to the soil. In winter, the trees rest, their bare branches standing quietly against the sky. Farther toward the poles, great boreal forests take hold. These vast stretches of coniferous trees are shaped by long, cold winters and short, mild summers. Their needle-like leaves allow them to survive in harsh conditions, shedding snow easily and conserving water. These forests may seem quieter and less varied, but they too support a wide range of life, from large herbivores to small burrowing animals and resilient birds. Despite their differences, all of these forests share the same deep foundation. They are built on cooperation between plants, fungi, animals, and microorganisms. Each forest is a network of relationships where the survival of one species depends on the well-being of many others. When one tree falls, it creates space for new life. When one species declines, another may rise to fill its place. The balance is always shifting, yet the system as a whole remains remarkably stable. As centuries pass, forests also act as archives of the Earth's past. In the rings of tree trunks, changes in climate are recorded year by year. Periods of drought leave narrow rings. Times of abundant rain create wide ones. Even volcanic eruptions and shifts in the atmosphere leave their mark in the wood. These trees are silent historians, storing the story of the planet within their growing bodies. The soil beneath the forest grows richer over time. Decaying plant matter accumulates, creating thick layers of organic material that hold moisture and nutrients. This fertile ground supports even more plant growth, allowing forests to become denser and more complex. Roots grow deeper, stabilizing the land and preventing erosion. Hills and slopes remain intact, protected by the living web of vegetation that holds them together. Rivers and streams that pass through forests are shaped by this plant life. Tree roots keep their banks from collapsing. Fallen leaves and branches slow the flow of water, allowing sediments to settle and nutrients to be absorbed. In this way, forests help purify and regulate the world's freshwater, quietly supporting life far beyond their own boundaries. The atmosphere above these forests is also influenced by their presence. Through their endless exchange of gases, trees help maintain the balance of oxygen and carbon dioxide. They cool the air through evaporation and influence wind patterns through their towering forms. Entire weather systems are shaped by the presence of vast forests, making them one of the most powerful forces on the planet. Animals continue to evolve within these green worlds. Some develop long limbs to climb trees. Others grow wings to move through the canopy. Still others become experts at digging, living beneath the roots and soil. Predators and prey adapt to one another, each shaping the other's behavior and form. Yet even this constant dance of survival remains part of the forest's greater harmony. There is no waste here. Every fallen leaf, every broken branch, every dead animal becomes food for something else. Nutrients cycle endlessly through the system, ensuring that life continues. The forest is both cradle and grave, nurturing new growth and gently absorbing what has passed. Over long stretches of time, the positions of the continents shift, mountains rise, seas expand and retreat. Forests move with these changes, migrating slowly across the land as climates alter. Some forests shrink and disappear, while others spread into new territories. Yet wherever conditions allow, trees once again take root and the green mantle of the earth is restored. It is within this ancient, ever-changing tapestry that the foundations for future life are laid. The forests build the soil, the air, and the climate that will one day support creatures not yet born. They do this without awareness or intention, simply by being what they are. And as these forests continue their endless cycles of growth, decay, and renewal, the distant presence of early humans draws ever closer, still faint and fragile, but slowly approaching the edges of this timeless green world, where the ancient forests still reign, unaware of the quiet footsteps that will one day enter their realm. For now, the trees continue their slow and patient work, shaping the land and the air as they have done for countless ages. The wind moves gently through their branches, carrying seeds and stories alike, while the ground beneath remains rich with the memory of all that has grown and faded before. As time flows onward, the forests grow ever more intricate. Some trees develop thicker bark to protect themselves from fire and insects. Others grow taller to reach the sunlight above their neighbors. Still others spread wide canopies that create deep shade, allowing only certain plants to grow beneath them. This constant adaptation creates a mosaic of habitats, each supporting different forms of life. The forest becomes a patchwork of light and shadow, warmth and coolness, moisture and dryness, all woven together into a single living system. In the deepest parts of these forests, where sunlight barely reaches the ground, strange and beautiful plants thrive. Mushrooms rise from rotting wood in delicate clusters. Pale flowers bloom briefly, opening only when conditions are just right. Moss blankets rocks and fallen trunks, holding moisture and creating tiny, sheltered worlds for insects and small creatures. These shaded places feel almost dreamlike, as if time itself has slowed to a whisper. The trees, meanwhile, continue to grow quietly. Each year, a new ring forms within their trunks, adding another layer to their living record. Through drought and flood, heat and cold, they endure. Some fall, but others rise in their place. Over thousands of years, entire forests may shift in composition, yet the land remains covered in green, held together by roots and soil and shared life. As the planet changes, so do the forests. Ice ages come and go, covering vast areas of land in snow and ice. During these colder times, forests retreat toward warmer regions, surviving in pockets where conditions remain favorable. When the ice melts, they slowly spread back across the land, reclaiming ground that had been lost. This long migration happens over thousands of years, so slowly that no single tree ever witnesses the full journey. Through all of this, the forests continue to support an astonishing variety of animals. Large herbivores wander through open woodlands, feeding on leaves and branches. Smaller creatures hide among roots and fallen logs. Predators move quietly, their senses tuned to the rhythms of the forest. Every sound, every scent, every movement becomes part of a complex web of interaction that allows life to continue. The forest also shapes the minds and behaviors of its inhabitants. Animals learn to navigate dense undergrowth, to recognize the calls of birds, to follow the subtle trails left by others. Their lives are intertwined with the trees that shelter them. In many ways, the forest becomes an extension of their bodies, guiding their movements and protecting their young. Even the air within the forest feels different. It is cooler, softer, filled with the scent of leaves and damp earth. The canopy filters harsh sunlight, creating a gentle, green-tinted glow. Rain falls more slowly here, caught and redirected by branches and leaves before reaching the ground. This creates a calm, sheltered environment where life can flourish. As millions of years pass, forests continue to play a central role in Earth's grand story. They store vast amounts of carbon in their wood and soil, helping to regulate the planet's temperature. They produce the oxygen that fills the sky. They provide habitats for countless species. Without them, the world would be a far harsher place, less able to support the rich diversity of life that has evolved. Some forests grow so old and stable that they become ancient in every sense of the word. Their trees tower above the land, their roots so deep and wide that they hold the soil together like a living net. In these ancient forests, change happens slowly. A tree may fall only once every few centuries, creating a small clearing where new life can begin. These quiet gaps in the canopy become nurseries for young plants, allowing the forest to renew itself without losing its overall structure. It is in these ancient, undisturbed places that the forest's hidden networks are most powerful. The fungal webs beneath the soil grow dense and complex, connecting trees across great distances. Through these networks, resources flow and the forest maintains its balance. When one area is damaged by storm or fire, others can help supply what is needed for recovery. The forest behaves not as a collection of individuals, but as a single, cooperative whole. And still, far away, the first humans are slowly learning to walk and think and communicate. They are small, vulnerable beings compared to the vast forests that cover the earth. They rely on the land for food and shelter, but they have not yet begun to shape it in significant ways. For now, they are simply another part of the natural world, living at the edges of these green expanses. As they wander through grasslands and along forest borders, they may catch glimpses of the great trees in the distance. To them, these forests must seem immense and mysterious, filled with unknown dangers and hidden wonders. Yet the forests themselves remain unchanged, continuing their slow, patient cycles of growth and renewal. Within the forest, life goes on much as it always has. Seeds fall and sprout, animals are born and die, fungi spread through the soil, water flows through roots and rivers alike. The earth breathes in and out, guided in large part by the presence of these vast green lungs. There is a quiet intelligence in the way forests operate. Without a central mind or guiding force, they manage to maintain balance, to adapt, and to survive through countless challenges. This intelligence is written in the language of chemistry and biology, in the interactions between roots and fungi, leaves and sunlight, soil and water. It is a slow, deep wisdom, shaped by millions of years of trial and change. And so, as the ages continue to pass, the forests remain waiting. Waiting for the moment when the new creatures at their edges will step more fully into their shade. Waiting for the chapter when humanity will begin to interact with these ancient systems in ways that will forever alter their story. But for now, the forests still belong to themselves, vast and quiet, holding the world in their green embrace as the story continues, moving ever forward through the slow, patient unfolding of time. The forests remain the heartbeat of the planet, pulsing with life in every leaf, root, and drop of moisture. Long before any human mind begins to wonder about the natural world, these forests already understand it, responding instinctively to the rhythms of sun and rain, warmth and cold. Across the continents, the great woodlands stretch in all directions. Some grow on vast plains, their trees rising like pillars from seas of green. Others cling to mountain slopes, their roots gripping stone and soil alike. In river valleys, forests follow the winding paths of water, forming lush corridors that guide animals and nourish countless forms of life. Even in harsh landscapes, trees find a way to survive, adapting their shapes and growth to whatever the land provides. The slow movement of the earth beneath these forests also shapes their fate. Continents drift apart and collide. Mountains rise, casting new rain shadows. Oceans expand and retreat, changing climates across wide regions. Forests respond to all of this, shifting their boundaries and changing their composition. Where rain becomes scarce, trees that conserve water take hold. Where temperatures rise, tropical species move in. In this way, forests become living maps of the planet's changing conditions. Within these green worlds, countless species co-evolve, each influencing the others. Flowering plants depend on insects and birds to spread their pollen. Fruit-bearing trees rely on animals to carry their seeds far and wide. Predators keep prey populations in balance, preventing any one species from overwhelming the system. Even microorganisms play a role, shaping the chemistry of the soil and the availability of nutrients. The forest is a web of relationships, every thread supporting the whole. In the quiet moments between storms and seasons, the forest feels almost timeless. The gentle sway of branches, the soft murmur of leaves, the distant calls of animals blend into a peaceful, steady soundscape. There is no rush here, no urgency beyond the simple need to grow, to survive, to pass on life. Everything unfolds at the pace of nature, guided by forces far older than any creature. As the ages pass, forests become more than just habitats. They become the foundation of the world's living systems. They create the soil that supports plants. They regulate the water that flows through rivers and into oceans. They shape the air that fills the sky. Without forests, the planet would be unrecognizable, a harsher and less hospitable place. The deep roots of trees reach down into the earth, breaking apart rock and drawing up minerals. These minerals are used to build leaves and wood, which eventually fall back to the ground and enrich the soil. Over time, this process turns bare land into fertile ground, allowing even more life to take hold. In this way, forests slowly transform the surface of the planet, making it more alive with every passing century. In some regions, forests become so dense that sunlight barely touches the ground. These shadowed places are cool and moist, filled with ferns, mosses, and fungi. The air is still, and the sounds of the outside world feel far away. These deep forest interiors are among the most stable environments on Earth, changing very little over long periods of time. They are like living museums, preserving ancient forms of life that have disappeared elsewhere. Elsewhere, forests are more open, allowing sunlight to reach the ground and grasses to grow between the trees. These woodlands support grazing animals and a different mix of plants and insects. The diversity of forest types across the planet ensures that life can thrive in many forms, adapting to a wide range of conditions. As new species of trees evolve, they bring new possibilities with them. Some develop flowers that attract specific pollinators. Others produce fruits that entice animals to carry their seeds. These innovations help forests spread and diversify, filling new ecological niches and increasing the richness of life within them. Through all of this, the forests remain largely undisturbed by any conscious force. There is no one directing their growth, no one planning their expansion. They simply respond to the conditions around them, guided by the silent rules of nature. In this sense, forests are both incredibly complex and beautifully simple, following patterns that have been refined over millions of years. Meanwhile, at the edges of these vast green realms, early humans slowly begin to encounter the forest more often. They hunt along its borders, gather fruits and nuts from its edges, and occasionally venture beneath its towering canopy. To them, the forest is both a source of life and a place of mystery. It provides food, shelter, and materials, yet it also hides dangers and unknown creatures. Still, their impact is minimal, barely noticeable in the grand scale of the forest's existence. For now, the forests continue as they always have, shaping the world quietly and patiently. They do not know that a new chapter is beginning, one in which humans will one day become powerful forces of change. They simply continue to grow, to breathe, and to support the countless lives that depend on them. Carrying the forests and all their countless inhabitants deeper into the long river of time. The great green expanses remain steady, rooted in the land yet ever shifting in their quiet ways. Every year new leaves unfurl. Every season old growth drifts gently back to the soil. Every decade subtle changes ripple through the system, shaping what will come next. In many places, forests begin to grow even taller and more complex. Some trees evolve to reach extraordinary heights, lifting their crowns far above the surrounding canopy. These towering giants become landmarks within the forest, visible from great distances and serving as anchors in the landscape. Their massive trunks store vast amounts of carbon and water, making them powerful stabilizers of the environment. Beneath them, younger trees and plants gather in their shade, benefiting from the protection they provide. The relationships between species continue to deepen. Certain fungi become specialized partners to particular trees, forming close bonds that allow both to thrive. Some insects evolve to live on only one kind of plant, depending on it for food and shelter. Birds time their migrations to match the flowering and fruiting cycles of forest trees. Over time, these connections become so intricate that the fate of one species is often tied closely to the fate of many others. Forests also become important corridors for life. Animals move through them as they migrate across the land, following rivers, valleys, and mountain passes. These green pathways allow species to spread, mix, and adapt to new environments. Without forests, many creatures would be trapped in isolated regions, unable to find new resources or mates. The trees, in their silent way, help keep life connected across the planet. The climate continues to change slowly, driven by shifts in the Earth's orbit, volcanic activity, and the movement of continents. During warmer periods, forests expand, pushing into higher latitudes and elevations. During colder times, they retreat, surviving in pockets where conditions remain favorable. These cycles repeat again and again, with forests adapting each time, reshaping themselves to fit the world around them. In the warmest eras, tropical forests cover enormous areas, stretching far from the equator. Their dense canopies trap heat and moisture, creating humid, lush environments where life flourishes in abundance. In these places, the air is thick with the scent of flowers and decaying leaves, and the forest floor is alive with movement. Even a single fallen log can support hundreds of species, from tiny insects to sprawling fungal colonies. In contrast, during cooler eras, forests become more sparse and open in many regions. Hardy trees dominate, their tough leaves and bark protecting them from cold and drought. These forests may appear quieter, but they are no less vital. They continue to regulate the climate, support animal life, and maintain the cycles of water and nutrients that keep the planet alive. Throughout all of this, the forests remain remarkably resilient. Even when faced with massive changes, they find ways to survive. Seeds lie dormant in the soil, waiting for the right conditions to sprout. Roots reach deep for water during dry times, new species evolve to replace those that can no longer cope. The forest is always preparing for the future, even as it lives fully in the present. The slow accumulation of plant material over millions of years also leads to the formation of rich deposits of organic matter. In some regions, thick layers of dead plants are buried and compressed, eventually becoming coal, peat, and other fossil fuels. These substances store the energy of ancient forests, capturing sunlight from ages long past. Long after the trees themselves have vanished, their legacy remains locked within the earth. Rivers flowing through forested lands carry with them leaves, branches, and nutrients, spreading the influence of the forests far beyond their borders. These materials nourish wetlands, lakes, and oceans, supporting life even in distant places. In this way, forests connect the land and sea, helping to sustain the entire biosphere. As early humans slowly spread across the planet, they begin to rely more heavily on the resources of the forest. They gather fruits, nuts, and roots. They hunt animals that live among the trees. They find shelter beneath branches and in hollow trunks. Yet at this stage, their presence is still gentle, their numbers too small to greatly alter the vast green world around them. The forests, ancient and vast, continue to dominate the landscape. They are the true rulers of the land, shaping ecosystems, climates, and even the atmosphere itself. They do this without intention or awareness, simply by following the patterns of life that have been written into their cells over millions of years. As the ages turn, the quiet story of the forests continues, layer upon layer, root upon root, leaf upon leaf. The world they have built is rich, complex, and alive, a living tapestry that stretches back to the earliest days of life on land. And so the forests remain, steady and enduring, carrying the planet forward through time. As the presence of humanity slowly draws nearer, still small and uncertain at the edge of this ancient green world where the forests continue their ancient rhythm, growing and reshaping themselves with every passing age. The slow movement of life within these woods is so gentle that it feels almost invisible, yet it is this very softness that allows the forests to endure. Nothing here is hurried. Every process, from the unfolding of a leaf to the slow decay of a fallen trunk, takes place according to the patient timing of the earth. Deep within the oldest forests, there are trees that have stood for thousands of years. These giants have witnessed countless cycles of change. They have felt the warmth of long summers and the chill of harsh winters. They have endured storms that ripped branches from their bodies and droughts that tested their deepest roots. Yet they remain, anchored firmly in the soil. Their towering forms a testament to the quiet strength of nature. Around these ancient trees, younger generations grow, each learning from the conditions that shaped the ones before them. Seeds that sprout in shade develop differently from those that grow in open sunlight. Some stretch upward quickly, racing toward the light. Others grow slowly and steadily, building strength before reaching higher. This diversity in growth strategies ensures that the forest remains adaptable, ready to respond to whatever the future may bring. The forest floor, constantly enriched by falling leaves and decaying wood, becomes a reservoir of life. Tiny creatures work endlessly to break down organic matter, releasing nutrients that feed new growth. This invisible workforce is as vital to the forest as the towering trees themselves. Without it, the cycle of life would grind to a halt. Water plays a central role in this living system. Rainfall seeps into the soil, carried downward by gravity and absorbed by roots. Some of it flows into underground streams, feeding springs and rivers that emerge far away. In this way, forests help regulate the flow of water across the land, preventing floods in wet times and sustaining rivers during dry periods. The trees act as natural guardians of the planet's freshwater. As forests mature, they also become sanctuaries of biodiversity. Countless species find homes among their branches, roots, and leaves. Some animals depend entirely on the forest for survival, never venturing into open land. Others move between forests and grasslands, carrying seeds and nutrients with them. The constant movement of life through these green spaces helps maintain their health and vitality. Over long periods, forests also influence the evolution of the creatures that live within them. Animals that can climb, glide, or fly have advantages in navigating dense vegetation. Plants that can attract specific pollinators or disperse their seeds effectively spread more widely. These evolutionary pressures shape the diversity of life, leading to the astonishing variety of forms we see in forest ecosystems. The atmosphere above the forests is subtly different from that of open land. The dense vegetation cools the air, creates humidity, and filters sunlight. This microclimate allows delicate plants and animals to thrive, protected from extreme temperatures and harsh winds. In many ways, forests create their own weather, shaping the conditions within their boundaries. As time continues to pass, the first human populations slowly grow in number and begin to explore more of the land. They move along rivers and through valleys, occasionally entering the forest in search of food or shelter. To them, these vast woods are both generous and intimidating. They provide fruits, nuts, and game, but they also hide predators and unknown dangers. Still, their impact remains small, a light footprint on a vast green canvas. The forests, for their part, simply continue. They absorb carbon, release oxygen, and support life in countless forms. They do not notice the small groups of humans passing through their edges. To the trees, these creatures are just another part of the natural world, no more significant than the animals or insects that have always lived among them. Over centuries, some humans begin to settle near forested areas, taking advantage of the rich soils and abundant resources. They may clear small patches of land, using wood for tools, shelter, and fire. But even then, the forests are so vast that these small clearings barely register in the grand scale of the ecosystem. The green world still dominates the land. The true power of forests lies in their ability to endure. Through ice ages, warming periods, and shifting continents, they have persisted. They have adapted to every challenge, finding new ways to grow and spread. This resilience is woven into their very structure, from the deep roots that anchor them to the flexible branches that bend with the wind. As we remain in this ancient time, before humanity has become a major force on the planet, the forests are still free to follow their own ancient rhythms. They grow, they change, and they support a world of life that is rich beyond measure. Their story is one of patience, cooperation, and quiet strength, carried forward by the endless unfolding of the natural world. The forests remain the silent architects of the planet, shaping not only the land beneath them but also the skies above. As leaves reach upward and roots stretch downward, they create a living bridge between earth and air, drawing energy from the sun and turning it into the building blocks of life. Across vast distances, these green networks stretch and connect. A forest on one continent influences rainfall on another through the movement of moisture in the atmosphere. Trees release water vapor through their leaves, forming clouds that travel on the wind, eventually falling as rain far away. In this way, forests act as engines of the global water cycle, quietly guiding the movement of weather across the planet. Within the forests themselves, this gentle exchange of moisture creates a soft, humid environment that supports delicate forms of life. Epiphytic plants cling to tree trunks and branches, drawing water from the air. Tiny frogs, insects, and reptiles live among leaves and bark, depending on the constant presence of moisture. Even the smallest pools of water that collect in hollows or on fallen logs become homes to entire miniature ecosystems. The sheer age of some forest regions allows life to become incredibly specialized. In places where forests have remained undisturbed for millions of years, species evolve that exist nowhere else. Plants develop unique shapes and chemical defenses. Animals adapt to specific foods or habitats. The forest becomes a mosaic of microhabitats, each supporting its own unique community of life. These ancient forests also act as reservoirs of genetic diversity. The wide variety of species and adaptations they contain provides a kind of biological insurance, allowing ecosystems to survive changes in climate and environment. When conditions shift, some species may struggle, but others will thrive, ensuring that life continues in new forms. As early humans slowly spread across the land, they begin to encounter different types of forests, each with its own challenges and opportunities. In tropical regions, dense vegetation provides abundant food but also hides dangers. In temperate forests, seasonal changes require careful planning and movement. In boreal forests, long winters test the limits of survival. Through these experiences, humans start to learn the rhythms of the natural world, though they are still far from mastering it. For now, however, the forests remain largely untouched. They continue to perform their ancient functions, regulating climate, supporting life, and shaping the earth. The slow accumulation of organic matter in forest soils stores enormous amounts of carbon, helping to stabilize the planet's temperature. The trees, in their quiet way, are guardians of the Earth's balance. The deep shade of the forest interior creates conditions that are very different from the open land outside. Here, temperatures are more stable and humidity remains high. This allows certain plants and animals to thrive that would not survive in harsher environments. These sheltered spaces become refuges during times of climatic change, helping species persist when conditions outside become difficult. Over long periods, forests also influence the course of evolution. Species that live within them adapt to low light, complex terrain, and close quarters. These pressures lead to innovations in vision, hearing, movement, and communication. The forest becomes a powerful driver of biological creativity, shaping life in countless subtle ways. The vast amount of biomass stored in forests also plays a crucial role in the planet's energy balance. By capturing sunlight and turning it into chemical energy, trees and plants form the base of food chains that extend far beyond the forest itself. Herbivores feed on plants, predators feed on herbivores. Scavengers and decomposers return nutrients to the soil. This flow of energy sustains life across the globe. As the first human communities grow larger and more complex, their interactions with forests slowly increase. They begin to use wood for building and fire, to hunt animals that live among the trees, and to gather plant foods. Still, the forests are so extensive that these activities remain small ripples in a vast sea of green. The story of the forests, however, is one of patience. They have survived countless challenges over millions of years, from massive volcanic eruptions to global climate shifts. They will continue to adapt even as new forces begin to shape their future. For now, in this age before humanity's great influence, the forests still belong to themselves. They stretch across the land in quiet majesty, their branches and roots weaving a living web that supports the entire planet. Their secret life continues, unseen and unrecorded, yet profoundly important. As the forests continue their slow and steady journey through deep time, untouched by any conscious design yet shaped by every force of nature, the green world breathes with quiet regularity, drawing in light and releasing life, sustaining an intricate balance that has taken millions of years to refine. Across valleys and plains, forests rise and fall like gentle waves. In some places, they stretch endlessly, forming vast woodlands that seem to have no beginning and no end. In others, they cluster in pockets of rich soil, following rivers, rainfall, and the contours of the land. Each forest, no matter its size, becomes a living system, unique in its composition yet connected to all others through the global cycles of air and water. The diversity within these forests continues to deepen. New species of plants appear, each finding a niche in the complex structure of leaves, branches, and soil. Some thrive in full sunlight, others in deep shade. Some grow quickly and die young, while others grow slowly and live for centuries. This variety ensures that the forest remains flexible, able to adjust to changing conditions and new challenges. Animals, too, become more specialized. Some develop long beaks to reach nectar hidden deep within flowers. Others evolve strong jaws to crack tough seeds. Still others become expert climbers, leaping from branch to branch with ease. Each adaptation is shaped by the forest, and in turn, each species helps shape the forest by spreading seeds, controlling plant populations, and creating new spaces for growth. The forest floor remains a place of constant transformation. Fallen leaves and wood are broken down by fungi and bacteria, releasing nutrients back into the soil. This process creates a rich, dark layer that holds water and supports new life. Without this endless recycling, the forest would quickly exhaust its resources. Instead, it remains fertile and vibrant year after year. In wet regions, forests give rise to swamps and wetlands where trees grow with their roots in water. These places become havens for birds, amphibians, and aquatic life. The trees filter pollutants and slow the flow of water, reducing erosion and creating calm, protected environments. Even here, where land and water meet, the forest plays its quiet role as a caretaker of the earth. The passage of time brings subtle shifts in the shape of forests. Some areas become more open as certain tree species decline. Others grow denser as new plants take hold. These changes are rarely sudden. They happen gradually, almost imperceptibly, guided by climate, soil, and the interactions between species. To the forest, change is not disruption, but simply another form of growth. As the first humans continue to explore the land, they slowly become more familiar with the forests. They learn which plants are safe to eat, which animals to hunt, and which trees provide the best materials. They begin to understand the rhythms of the seasons, the patterns of animal movement, and the signs of weather. This knowledge allows them to survive, but it does not yet give them power over the forest. For now, humans remain just another species among many, their lives woven into the larger tapestry of nature. They depend on the forest as much as any other creature, drawing food, shelter, and tools from its abundance. The trees do not recognize them as anything special. They are simply part of the living world that the forest has always supported. The ancient forests continue to dominate the landscape, shaping the world in ways that few creatures ever perceive. They control the flow of energy, the movement of water, and the balance of gases in the atmosphere. They provide homes for countless species and create the conditions that allow life to thrive. As ages turn into millennia, the forests remain steadfast. They witness the slow rise of human societies at their edges, but their own internal rhythms continue unchanged. Leaves fall, roots grow, fungi spread, life goes on. The story of these forests is one of endurance. They have survived ice ages and warming periods, storms and droughts, fires and floods. They have adapted to every challenge, finding new ways to grow and persist. This resilience is the true secret of their success, as the forests continue to breathe life into the world with every passing moment. Across the endless stretches of green, the quiet work of growth and renewal never stops. Leaves capture sunlight and turn it into energy. Roots draw water and minerals from deep within the soil. Fungi move nutrients from place to place, weaving an invisible web beneath the ground. Together, these processes keep the forests alive and thriving, even as the world around them slowly changes. In the deepest reaches of these forests, some areas remain almost completely untouched for thousands of years. These old-growth forests become places of extraordinary stability. The tallest trees stand like living towers, their massive trunks and sprawling branches creating a layered world of shade and light. Beneath them, younger trees and shrubs grow in the filtered sunlight, while mosses and ferns carpet the ground. Every level of the forest supports its own community of life, from insects to birds to mammals. The complexity of these ecosystems allows them to resist many forms of disturbance. When a tree falls, it opens a small gap in the canopy, allowing sunlight to reach the forest floor. This light encourages new plants to grow, filling the space left behind. In this way, the forest heals itself, turning loss into opportunity. Even large-scale events like storms and fires become part of this cycle, creating patches of new growth that increase diversity and resilience. As the Earth's climate shifts, forests play a crucial role in moderating those changes. They absorb heat through the evaporation of water from their leaves, cooling the surrounding air. They store carbon in their wood and soil, reducing the amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. These processes help stabilize the planet's temperature, making it more hospitable for life. In regions where forests are especially dense, they create their own microclimates. The air is cooler and more humid, the soil richer and more stable. These conditions allow sensitive species to survive, even when the surrounding landscape becomes harsher. In this way, forests act as refuges, protecting life during times of environmental stress. Animals continue to evolve in close relationship with these green worlds. Some species become more adept at moving through dense vegetation, developing strong limbs or specialized claws. Others evolve keen senses to navigate the complex forest environment. Birds adapt to life in the canopy, while small mammals and reptiles find niches on the forest floor. Each adaptation strengthens the bond between life and the forest that supports it. The early humans who live near these forests begin to notice their patterns. They see how certain plants bloom at specific times of year, how animals move in predictable ways, and how the forest changes with the seasons. This knowledge becomes essential for survival, guiding their hunting, gathering, and migration. Yet even as they learn, the forests remain vast and largely unchanged by their presence. The power of the forests lies in their sheer scale and endurance. They cover enormous areas of land, shaping entire continents. They persist through countless generations, outlasting most of the creatures that live within them. Their slow, steady growth creates a sense of timelessness, as if they have always been there and always will be. Beneath the surface, the soil continues to grow deeper and richer. Organic matter accumulates, creating a dark, fertile layer that supports new life. This soil holds water, buffers temperature changes, and provides a stable foundation for roots. It is one of the forest's greatest treasures, built over thousands of years of growth and decay. As rivers flow through forested regions, they carry with them the influence of the trees. Leaves and organic material nourish aquatic life, while roots stabilize banks and prevent erosion. The health of forests is closely tied to the health of waterways, and together they support vast networks of life across the land. In this age before humanity's major impact, the Earth is still largely governed by natural processes. Forests expand and contract, species evolve and adapt, and the climate shifts gradually. Life responds to these changes with resilience and creativity, finding new ways to survive and thrive. The forests, in their quiet way, are at the center of it all. They are the lungs of the planet, the builders of soil, the regulators of climate, and the homes of countless species. Their secret life is not one of mystery, but of deep, interconnected processes that sustain the world, with the forests continuing their patient, unbroken dance with the earth. Across mountains, valleys, and plains, the green mantle of trees remains the dominant force on land, quietly directing the flow of energy, water, and life itself. Every leaf, every root, every hidden fungus plays a part in this vast living system that has been refining itself for millions of years. In some regions, forests grow so thick that they form a nearly continuous canopy. From above, they appear like endless seas of green, their surface rippling with the movement of wind. Below, however, these forests are full of layers and spaces. Light filters down through gaps in the leaves, creating bright patches where young plants can grow. In deeper shade, slower-growing species find their place, waiting patiently for their turn to reach the light. The trees themselves are masterpieces of adaptation. Some have smooth bark that sheds insects and fungi. Others have thick, rugged bark that protects them from fire and cold. Some produce chemical compounds that discourage herbivores, while others rely on rapid growth to outpace damage. These strategies, shaped by countless generations, allow forests to remain strong even in the face of constant challenge. As forests mature, they begin to influence the land in profound ways. Their roots hold soil in place, preventing erosion and landslides. Their leaves soften the impact of rain, reducing flooding and allowing water to soak gently into the ground. Over time, this creates stable landscapes where rivers flow more smoothly and fertile soil accumulates. Entire ecosystems depend on this quiet work. The diversity of life within forests continues to increase. New species emerge, filling every available niche. Some live high in the canopy, feeding on leaves and fruit. Others inhabit the mid-level branches, hunting insects or nesting among the twigs. Still others live on or beneath the forest floor, feeding on decaying matter or small prey. This vertical structure creates a three-dimensional world, far more complex than open land. The early humans who live near these forests gradually become more skilled at navigating them. They learn to follow animal tracks, to recognize edible plants, and to use wood and stone to create tools. Their survival depends on their understanding of the natural world, and the forest becomes both a teacher and a provider. Yet even as their knowledge grows, the forests remain vast and powerful, far beyond human control. In this age, forests still dominate the planet's surface. Grasslands and deserts exist, but they are often bordered and shaped by woodlands. Even in open areas, scattered trees and shrubs play a role in stabilizing soil and providing habitat. The green influence of forests reaches almost everywhere, connecting ecosystems across the globe. As time continues its slow march, the planet experiences periods of warming and cooling. During warmer eras, forests spread into higher latitudes, creating new habitats and supporting new forms of life. During colder times, they retreat toward the equator, surviving in refuges where conditions remain favorable. These movements happen over thousands of years, guided by the steady hand of climate. The resilience of forests lies in their ability to adapt. Seeds can remain dormant for long periods, waiting for the right conditions to grow. Trees can survive damage and regenerate from their roots. Species can migrate, evolve, or find new niches. Together, these abilities allow forests to persist through even the most dramatic changes. Deep within the forest, the ancient networks of fungi and roots continue their silent communication. Nutrients and chemical signals flow through the soil, linking trees and plants in a web of mutual support. This hidden system allows the forest to behave as a single, coordinated entity, responding to stress and opportunity alike. The presence of early humans remains a small but growing factor in this world. They use fire occasionally to clear small areas or drive game, creating patches of open land within the forest. These clearings, however, are quickly reclaimed by vegetation and the forest returns. For now, the balance remains largely intact. The story of these forests is one of continuity. Generation after generation of trees rises and falls, yet the forest itself endures. It is a living memory of the earth, carrying within it the history of countless ages. Carried on the slow breath of wind through leaves and branches as the forests continue their ancient, patient work. Across the vast surface of the earth, these great green realms remain the dominant presence, quietly shaping every aspect of life. Their roots hold the land together, their leaves filter the sunlight, and their hidden networks guide the flow of water and nutrients beneath the soil. In ways no creature can fully perceive, the forests are writing the story of the planet, one gentle season at a time. The forests of this ancient world are not all the same. Each region has its own character, its own rhythms, and its own unique community of life. In tropical regions where the sun shines strongly and rain falls often, the forests grow tall and dense. Leaves are broad and lush, capturing every ray of light. Vines climb endlessly toward the canopy, and flowers bloom in bright colors to attract pollinators. The air here suggests abundance, heavy with the scent of growing things and rich with moisture. In these tropical forests, life moves at a constant pace. There is no true winter, only cycles of wet and dry. Plants grow quickly, reaching for the light before their neighbors can overshadow them. Animals take advantage of the endless supply of food, spreading seeds and pollen as they move through the greenery. Every fallen fruit becomes nourishment for insects, birds, or mammals, and nothing goes to waste. The forest is a continuous cycle of giving and receiving, always alive with motion. Farther from the equator, temperate forests unfold in wide bands across the land. These forests experience seasons and with them gentle change. Spring brings new leaves and flowers. Summer fills the canopy with deep green. Autumn turns the forest into a tapestry of warm colors as leaves prepare to fall. Winter quiets everything, allowing the trees to rest and conserve energy. This seasonal rhythm shapes the lives of the creatures that live here, guiding their migrations, hibernations, and breeding cycles. In the temperate forests, trees often grow taller and more widely spaced than in the tropics. Sunlight reaches the ground in soft patterns, encouraging a rich understory of shrubs, herbs, and young trees. This diversity creates habitats for a wide range of animals, from grazing herbivores to nimble climbers and ground-dwelling creatures. The forest floor becomes a mosaic of life, constantly changing with the seasons. Toward the colder reaches of the planet, boreal forests stretch across vast northern lands. These forests are dominated by hardy conifers, their needle-like leaves designed to withstand cold and snow. Winters here are long and dark, but the trees endure, waiting patiently for the return of warmth. When summer finally arrives, growth is rapid and intense as plants make the most of the brief season of light. Despite their differences, all of these forests are united by the same underlying processes. Photosynthesis turns sunlight into energy. Roots draw nutrients from the soil. Fungi and microorganisms recycle dead matter into new life. Water moves through leaves, soil, and air in endless cycles. Together, these forces create a living system that is both delicate and incredibly strong. Over millions of years, forests also shape the planet's geology. Their roots break apart rock, turning it into soil. Their fallen leaves and wood build up layers of organic matter, creating fertile ground where new plants can grow. This slow transformation changes the face of the earth, turning barren landscapes into thriving ecosystems. In this way, forests are not just part of the land, they help create it. The deep connection between forests and the atmosphere continues to grow. Trees absorb carbon dioxide and release oxygen, altering the composition of the air. Over long periods, this process makes the planet more suitable for complex life. The very breath that animals take is shaped by the quiet work of leaves and chlorophyll. As forests spread and evolve, they also influence global climate. By storing carbon in their wood and soil, they help regulate temperature. By releasing moisture into the air, they affect rainfall patterns. Large forested regions can even influence wind and cloud formation. The presence or absence of forests in a given area can change the climate far beyond their boundaries. Within these vast green systems, animals continue to adapt and diversify. Some become specialized seed dispersers, carrying fruits far from their parent trees. Others become pollinators, ensuring that plants can reproduce. Predators help keep populations in balance, preventing any one species from overwhelming the system. Each role, no matter how small, contributes to the health of the whole. Early humans, still few in number, slowly begin to interact more with these forests. They use wood for fire and shelter. They hunt animals that live among the trees. They gather plants for food and medicine. Yet even as their skills improve, they remain deeply dependent on the natural world. The forests are not something they control. They are something they must respect to survive. The ancient forests, in turn, remain largely unaffected by these small human activities. They are too vast, too resilient to be easily changed. A few trees may be cut, a small clearing may appear, but the forest soon reclaims the space. Seeds sprout, roots spread, and green returns. The balance holds. As the ages continue to pass, the forests remain the dominant force on land. They are the great architects of the biosphere, shaping the conditions under which all other life exists. Their story is written in rings of wood, layers of soil, and the countless species that call them home. Where clouds drift slowly and sunlight filters through the endless green canopies, casting gentle patterns across the forest floor. The forests remain vast and alive, their slow movements shaping the earth in ways that no single creature can ever fully comprehend. Every tree stands as both an individual and a part of something much larger, connected through roots, soil, air, and time. Across the ancient world, forests continue to spread and retreat in response to shifting climates. In some places, warming temperatures allow trees to push into higher elevations, climbing mountain slopes that were once too cold for growth. In other regions, cooling trends force forests to withdraw, leaving behind open landscapes that will one day be reclaimed when conditions change again. This slow ebb and flow happens over thousands of years, far beyond the lifespan of any single tree, yet the forests as a whole endure. The interaction between forests and water remains one of the most important forces shaping the planet. Rain that falls on leaves trickles down through branches and trunks, soaking into the soil where roots absorb it. Some of this water flows into underground channels, feeding springs and rivers that emerge far away. By controlling how water moves through the land, forests help prevent erosion, reduce flooding, and sustain life in distant ecosystems. In regions where forests are especially dense, they create deep reservoirs of moisture. These wet, shaded environments allow plants and animals that require high humidity to survive. Even during periods of drought, these forest refuges can remain green and alive, providing shelter for species that would otherwise perish. In this way, forests act as buffers against extreme climate events. The long-term stability of forests also allows them to become centers of evolution. Species that live in these stable environments can specialize, adapting to very specific conditions. This leads to extraordinary diversity, with countless forms of life filling every available niche. Some plants grow only on certain trees. Some insects feed on only one kind of leaf. Some animals rely on a particular forest type for survival. Together, they form intricate communities that have developed over millions of years. As early humans slowly spread across the land, they begin to encounter this diversity firsthand. They learn which plants are useful and which are dangerous. They discover animals that provide food and materials. They begin to develop tools and techniques that allow them to survive more effectively in forested environments. Yet even as their knowledge grows, the forests remain powerful and unpredictable, capable of overwhelming any careless intruder. The sheer scale of these ancient forests makes them feel almost infinite. A person could walk for days or weeks beneath the canopy without ever reaching the edge. This vastness creates a sense of mystery and awe, as if the forest itself is a world apart from the rest of the planet. Within its depths, life follows its own rhythms, guided by the cycles of growth and decay. The forests also serve as living libraries of the Earth's history. In their soils are layers of organic material, each representing a different era of growth. In their trees are rings that record years of abundance and scarcity. In their genetic diversity are traces of past climates, migrations, and adaptations. All of this information is stored quietly, waiting to be read by those who know how to look. Over time, some forests become so old and stable that they change very little from one century to the next. These old-growth forests are among the most complex ecosystems on Earth, with towering trees, deep soils, and intricate networks of life. They are places of deep calm where the passage of time feels almost suspended. In these ancient groves, the relationships between species are especially strong. Trees and fungi are closely linked. Animals depend on specific plants. Even the soil itself becomes a carefully balanced system of nutrients and microorganisms. This stability makes these forests incredibly resilient, able to recover from disturbances and continue supporting life. The early human presence remains small, but it slowly begins to leave subtle marks on the land. Small clearings appear where people have gathered wood or set fires. Trails form where animals and humans pass repeatedly. These changes are minor compared to the vastness of the forests, but they represent the first hints of a new kind of influence. Still, the forests continue to grow and adapt. They reclaim abandoned clearings. They spread into new areas. They continue to shape the climate, the soil, and the atmosphere. Their power lies not in sudden change, but in slow, persistent action. As the ages continue to pass, the relationship between humans and forests will grow more complex. But for now, in this ancient time before humanity's great impact, the forests remain the dominant force on land, guiding the Earth's rhythms with quiet strength. As the forests continue their ancient presence across the face of the Earth, holding within them a living memory of the planet's long and patient journey. Each forest, whether spread across tropical lowlands or clinging to the sides of distant mountains, plays its part in a vast, interconnected system that sustains life on a global scale. The trees themselves are remarkable engineers of their environment. Their roots reach deep into the ground, breaking apart rock and drawing up minerals. These minerals travel through trunks and branches, becoming part of leaves and wood. When those leaves fall and that wood decays, the minerals are returned to the soil, enriching it and making it ready for new life. In this way, forests continually build and rebuild the very ground beneath them, slowly turning stone into fertile earth. Over centuries, this process creates thick layers of rich soil that can hold large amounts of water and nutrients. This soil becomes a foundation for other plants, allowing grasses, shrubs, and young trees to grow. It also supports countless microorganisms that play a vital role in recycling nutrients. Without this living soil, forests could not exist, and without forests, this soil would not form. The interaction between forests and water continues to shape landscapes. Rain that falls on leaves is slowed and filtered before it reaches the ground. This prevents erosion and allows water to soak into the soil. Some of this water is stored underground, feeding springs and streams long after the rain has stopped. This steady release of water helps maintain rivers and wetlands, supporting life far beyond the forest itself. In this way, forests act as natural reservoirs, regulating the flow of water across the land. They reduce the risk of floods during heavy rains and provide moisture during dry periods. Entire regions depend on the presence of forests to maintain their water supplies, even though the connection may not be immediately visible. The atmosphere above the forests is also shaped by their presence. Trees release oxygen as they grow, gradually enriching the air. They also absorb carbon dioxide, storing it in their wood and soil. Over millions of years, this process has helped regulate the planet's climate, preventing extreme temperature swings and creating conditions that allow complex life to thrive. The vast forests of the ancient world are therefore not just habitats, they are life support systems for the entire planet. They influence the climate, the chemistry of the air, and the flow of water. They provide homes for countless species and create the conditions that allow evolution to unfold. Within these forests, evolution continues to work quietly. Plants develop new strategies to capture sunlight or resist pests. Animals evolve new ways to move, hunt, or hide. Even microorganisms adapt to changes in temperature, moisture, and soil chemistry. The forest is a constant experiment in survival, with every generation testing new variations and combinations. As early humans slowly expand across the land, they become part of this evolutionary story. They learn to use the resources of the forest, to adapt to its rhythms, and to survive within its boundaries. Yet at this stage, they are still deeply embedded in the natural world, dependent on its cycles and vulnerable to its changes. The forests remain largely indifferent to their presence. Trees grow, leaves fall, and roots spread regardless of human activity. The forest does not recognize ownership or boundaries. It simply follows the patterns of life that have guided it for ages. In some regions, forests begin to interact more closely with early human communities. People may favor certain plants or clear small areas for gathering or shelter. These actions can subtly influence which species thrive in a given area. Over time, this can lead to slight changes in forest composition, but the overall system remains strong and resilient. The true power of forests lies in their ability to recover. When disturbed, they regrow. When damaged, they heal. When challenged by changing conditions, they adapt. This resilience is the result of millions of years of evolution, shaping systems that can withstand uncertainty and change. As the long story of the Earth continues, the forests remain at its heart, quietly supporting the web of life. Their secret life is one of constant activity beneath a surface of calm, a reminder that even the stillest places are filled with unseen motion and connection. And now at last we arrive at the final quiet turning of this long story, as the forests that have ruled the earth for so many ages continue to breathe beneath the sky, even as humanity slowly steps more fully into the world they helped create. The green empires that once covered nearly every suitable land are still here, still alive, still quietly working in the background of existence, even though the future will bring changes no tree could ever foresee. As early humans grow in number and skill, their relationship with the forest begins to shift. At first, they are simple gatherers and hunters, moving gently through the trees, taking only what they need. They learn the patterns of animal migration, the timing of fruit and nut harvests, and the healing properties of certain plants. The forest becomes both a provider and a teacher, guiding them in subtle ways. But even now, the balance remains mostly intact. The trees still dominate the land. The rivers still flow where the roots guide them. The seasons still follow the ancient rhythm set by leaves and light. Yet something quietly profound is happening. Humans, unlike any creature before them, begin to remember, to plan, and to pass down knowledge in growing detail. They begin to understand fire not just as a force of nature, but as a tool. They learn how to shape stone, how to store food, how to return to the same places year after year. These abilities will one day allow them to reshape landscapes, including forests, in ways that no animal ever could. But for now, this future is still far away, and the forests remain strong. The ancient forests continue to hold their deep living memory. Their soils store the remains of countless generations of plants. Their trunks contain the record of years gone by. Their underground networks still pass messages between trees, keeping the great green systems in balance. The wind still moves through their branches, and the rain still falls softly onto their leaves. In all of this, the forests remain what they have always been: vast, patient, and alive. Even as humans slowly spread across continents, most of the earth remains wild. Forests still cover huge areas, shaping the climate, filtering the air, and supporting life on an enormous scale. They are the lungs of the planet, the builders of soil, the keepers of water, and the silent architects of ecosystems. Every breath taken by animals, including humans, is connected to the quiet work of leaves capturing sunlight and turning it into oxygen. What makes this ancient world so extraordinary is not just its beauty, but its balance. Everything has a place. Every death feeds new life. Every fallen tree becomes soil for the next generation. The forest is not static. It is always changing, always flowing, yet somehow always remaining itself. It is a living reminder that stability does not mean stillness, and that harmony is created through endless, gentle movement. And even though humanity will one day change the forests in ways that are both creative and destructive, the deep truth remains that all human life is rooted in this ancient green world. The food we eat, the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the soil beneath our feet all trace back to the quiet labor of forests that existed long before the first human voice ever spoke. So as we come to the end of this journey into the secret life of forests before humanity, we can pause for a moment and appreciate the incredible, unseen story that has been unfolding beneath our feet for millions of years. A story written not in words, but in leaves and roots, in soil and sunlight, in wind and water. A story of patience, cooperation, and quiet strength. If you enjoyed this journey through Earth's ancient green world, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you can join us for more calm, fascinating stories from deep history. Leave a comment below and let us know what you thought about this episode, and tell us where in the world you are watching from. And until next time, relax, breathe deeply, and let the quiet wisdom of the ancient forests carry you gently into rest.